Hey guys, today we'll be taking a look at the updated and reworked Neonic Flare Prime X. This is a curved standard shape paddle that's 16 by 8 with a 14mm core and a 5.5 inch handle. For the surface, it uses what it calls carbon fiberglass, but to my knowledge, I'm pretty sure this is just a blend of carbon fiber and fiberglass. Starting off, let's take a look at the swing weight and twist weight. For the swing weight, we got 106, which I found to be average for a 14mm standard shape paddle. It's on the faster end of the spectrum for speed, and the Prime X models being in that thinner 14mm thickness makes it even quicker than most standard shape paddles. Now the twist weight is where things get interesting, and we got a high number of 6.85. This is an above average stability measurement that is above many hybrid shaped 16mm paddles and even rivals some 16mm standard shape paddles as well. This is because Neonic targeted extra weight to be in specific areas, I believe in the 4 and 8 o'clock positions, which enhances the paddle stability more than usual. While 14mm paddles generally have smaller sweet spots than their thicker 16mm variants, the Flare Prime X has a very forgiving one that rivals that of a 16mm. I added 2 strips of tungsten tape at the 9 and 3 o'clock positions and felt that this was all the weight I needed to get the paddle to a spot where I could play comfortably. Moving on, let's look at how the Flare plays. Unlike the previous iteration, this is one I consider a power paddle and one of the most powerful standard shape paddles out there. While the original Flare Prime Control version was more like a poppier and more powerful Mach 2 Forza 14mm, the Prime X has power and pop that's very similar to the Paddletech ESQ 14.3mm, so I consider it on the lower end of the spectrum for a power paddle. The Flare Prime X is a Gen 2 thermoform paddle, so it is created in a hot mold and has foam injected in the edges to add perimeter weighting to enhance the sweet spot. While it does have similar firepower to the Paddletech ESQ, the difference in construction does lead to the paddles having different overall feel from each other, as the Paddletechs aren't thermoformed, but use a type of Gen 1 cold pressing instead. For starters, there is a noticeable difference in the sweet spot, as Paddletech doesn't utilize edge foam in the perimeter. You have more forgiveness with the Flare compared to the ESQ, which has a tighter sweet spot, and there is a significant drop-off in power on the latter when you do miss the sweet spot area. As for the overall feel of the paddles, there's a more substantial and solid feel to the Flares, while the ESQ have a bit more of a hollow feel on impact. Again, likely due to the differences in their manufacturing. The one area that was not different between the two was the maneuverability, as the swing weights were about the same because their shapes are similar, and the difference in construction process didn't affect this. Honestly, I would describe the Flare as an upgraded ESQ because it's similar in firepower but has a significantly better sweet spot, and in my opinion, it has a better feel to it that I found easier to control. This also doesn't even factor in the big price difference between the two, as the Flare retails for $139, which is over $100 cheaper than the Paddletech. Now, you're not going to have the power levels of an R2 Ripple or a Gen 3 Scorpius, but I think it's the most forgiving power paddle on the market right now in that standard shape that offers a great balance of power and control. I can see why Neonic delayed this release and redid the original Flare Prime because the new X version I find to be an upgrade that has a better identity in the market. This is the paddle I would go for if you want an upgrade in firepower over paddles like the Monarch All Court or Bread and Butter Fat Boy. It's one of the best 14mm paddle options and one of the best standard shape paddles in general, so if you do want to pick one up, I've added my discount code here as well as a link to purchase one in the video description below.
Sorry. No, I deserve it. God. Someday. Sorry.